Hey y'all, welcome to Fitting and Homemaking. Today we are going to be looking at my low spend year and reviewing how I did for February. If you want a more extensive background on why I'm doing a low spend year, what that entails, how my finances are set up, go ahead and check out the video I did for January. I went over those topics in that video. I'll either link the video up here or in the description below. But the short version essentially is that I'm trying to pay off my car loan this year. And so let's go ahead and take a look at what I did last month. So our total household expenses ended up being at $5,535.57. Those household expenses include things like our mortgage and escrow, internet, car insurance, pet insurance, groceries, electricity, natural gas, water and sewer, our phone lines, HOA, Amazon Prime subscription, and the kids' expenses like diapers, wipes, healthcare and insurance, and of course, daycare. So this was a more expensive month for daycare because we're paying ahead for March, and March has 5 Mondays in it, and it's billed weekly. So that accounts for around $3,000 of our total expenses. The amount of our escrow also went up this month. I thought it was going to go up next month, but it hit this month. So that will stay standard for the rest of the year now. And that's the big household picture, essentially. This month, my part of that was $2,767.79. So my personal expenses outside of those household expenses include my car payment. So the base payment for that is $385.54. I spent $52.59 in gas for the car this month, so that's about 2 fill-ups. And I spent $35 on Valentine's Day gifts. So all that sounds great so far. However, I ended up having a very large unexpected expense, or rather expenses, to be more accurate. And that was because I ended up taking an unplanned trip, and I purposefully did not track my spending on this trip. So early on in February, I essentially hit a mental breaking point. I've been dealing with depression and anxiety for a while now. I think I've kind of, if I've not outright said that in other videos, I've certainly hinted at it. And I just got to the point where I was not coping anymore. There are days when we cope well, there are days when we cope not so well, but I was at the point where I was just not coping. And so for my own sake and for my family's sake, I took myself off for a couple of days and nights and took a break from just everything. So work, family, house, all the responsibilities, right? And this has been something that my friends and my family and my therapist have all suggested at different points in time that I should do. And I realized that I was just at the point where it wasn't really an optional thing anymore. And that I was behaving in a way that I personally found unacceptable to be around my family. I wasn't being unsafe or anything like that, but I was not being someone that I wanted my family to be around. So I do want to put the caveat in here of I realize how absolutely privileged I am to be able to just kind of drop everything on short notice and peace out for a couple days, so to speak. I get that's very privileged from a financial standpoint. I do get paid leave from work that I was able to take. I understand a lot of people don't have paid leave from work. A lot of people might not come back to a job if they decided to just, text their boss one morning and say, hey, I'm not coming in for a few days. I understand that's privileged from like a family responsibility point of view. A lot of people don't have partners that they can rely on to the extent that I can rely on my husband. I mean, my husband is a great father, and he wanted a family because he wanted to be a dad, and he is not the type of dad who just kind of taps in and out. He's a dad 24/7, just like I'm a mom 24/7. And, he doesn't babysit the kids when he's watching the kids. He's just being their dad. So I was able to leave on very short notice. I didn't need to give my husband instructions. I didn't need to do anything like that. And I was able to leave and not be worried that my kids were going to be cared for, right? I know a lot of people that is not a possibility for them to do. Their partners are not as much of a teammate as my husband is in the child care arena. So with that explanation aside, how much did the trip cost? It cost me $504.61. So about $300 of that was hotel, and the rest was mostly food and drink and some other incidentals. I could have absolutely done this way cheaper. However, the point was to try to get a mental and physical break, and that includes like things from worrying about finances. I needed to go and to do things that made me happy and to be my own person again. And I needed to stay somewhere where I felt comfortable and safe, especially traveling as a female alone. I needed to be able to sit down and have like really good meals and just overall try to reset myself. So I wasn't going to be tracking my spending, and I didn't. And I didn't tell myself, oh, you're on this low spend challenge. Like, don't go to that coffee shop and get that latte. Don't go to that bakery and get that sourdough. You shouldn't go and get cocktails before dinner with your best friend. Like, that's going to be expensive. So I didn't say those things, right? Because that would have been very counterproductive to the whole point of why I was on this trip. So I'm very fortunate that I'm paid well, that in the past I've prioritized getting a pad in my checking account. So if I do spend more in 1 month than my income is, it's like not going to be a huge deal. I've got an emergency fund. So all of those things made it so that I really didn't have to think about the cost, right? As long as I didn't go completely off the rails and like do something obscenely outrageous, like buy a boat, like the cost of this trip was going to be fine. I was going to be able to absorb it and be fine. So yes, $500 is expensive, but it was also very, very necessary for my mental health at that point in time. Did it solve everything? Did it get rid of my depression and my anxiety? No, it did not. But what it did enable me to do was to return to my family and to return to my home and not be triggered by every single thing, which is what was happening before. I was able to be more in control of my emotional reactions. So it did help reset me in that way. And when I knew that this was going to come up in this low spend budget review, and I was kind of wondering about how much I should share to, just protect my own privacy, but also not to sweep under the rug about the importance of mental health and the importance of taking care of yourself and prioritizing yourself, because I think those things are so important. And I know that I'm partially in the place I am now with my depression and my anxiety because I neglected to care for myself. I was spending too much time focusing on caring for others, and I was neglecting myself in the past. So I am trying to do better. This trip was part of that, and I'm doing other stuff moving forward. But in the end, that trip plus my other kind of more normal expenses ended up totaling $973.99 for this month, which brings my total household and personal expenses to $3,741.88 this month. My take-home pay was $3,762.41. So my income less my expenses left me with an extra $20.52 this month, which I did absolutely put towards paying down the principal on my car loan. So now I have $9,204.83 left on my car loan. This is very, very, very slight progress, but honestly, I am happy with it. I did not think I was going to have any money left over after that trip. I thought I would be dipping into my pad in my checking account and then having to set aside that amount of money next month to build my checking pad back up. And so having an extra 20 bucks is fantastic. I will absolutely take that as a win after a very tough month. So that is it for today's video. I hope next month's video will be slightly more positive. I hope we'll make slightly more progress next month on paying down this car loan. But thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.